Good morning, everybody. Dr. Patmos again. It is still May 28th, and I am so pleased that the uh, idea, the notion, the reality that autism, the increase in autism is largely artifact, mainly due to diagnostic substitution, is getting a lot of traction. There was an editorial in the New England Journal about a month or so ago that kind of really brought this to light. It clicked for me. I did a little additional research and produced a chart from CDC data that shows that as the diagnosis of mental incompetence, whatever they called it back then, declined, the incidence and prevalence of autism went up as a result of autism now being a new diagnostic entity listed in DSM 3 in the early 1970s. That's when the increase in autism occurred. So it really it looks like it's not a true increase. Most, if not all, of the increase in autism is artifact due to diagnostic substitution, what used to be called other things like mental retardation and mental disability and intellectual disability and developmental disability and all these other terms that were used before DSM 3. Now, a lot of those diagnoses were basically lumped into the new category of autism spectrum disorder, and that's when you see the increase. So it's largely an artifact. And since the New England Journal had this great article a month or so ago, I did two videos about this and published my little graph on Substack, and oh, it has gotten a lot of attention. Some people have really gotten their panties in a bunch over this, and because it really threatens the whole industry, the autism vaccine connection industry, and that the Tylenol autism, circumcision autism, processed foods autism, everything causes autism. The entire industry, based upon the false notion that autism is epidemic, is jeopardized by the reality that there is no epidemic of autism. It's all just diagnostic substitution. Well, I thought it would be interesting because this is not this thing. Diagnostic substitution is a phenomenon of an apparent increase of a disease that's not really due to a real increase. Is not unique to autism. Autism is not the only artifact in this way. Many other disorders have experienced the same thing. In my career now, nearly 50 years as a doctor, I can tell you one very graphic example that I have seen personally firsthand. The explosion in the diagnosis of prostate cancer. I remember as a medical student, we didn't have any tests to diagnose prostate cancer. The only test we had was it was the digital age, but a different digital age. We did digital prostate exams, and that's how you would diagnose it. If you felt a rock hard prostate with a nodule in it, you could begin to suspect that the patient had prostate cancer. And then it was most patients with prostate cancer presented with metastatic disease. They were terminally ill, and we had an entire floor at the Reno Veterans Administration Medical Center with nothing but elderly men with metastatic prostate cancer. So we thought back then that all prostate cancer ended up as metastatic disease, and that's how it presented. Then along came a test called the prostatic acid phosphatase, which was an attempt to diagnose prostate cancer earlier. It was all right. It wasn't that great of a test. And then when I was early in my training, in my residency training, along came the prostate specific antigen. And this test was great because it allowed you to diagnose prostate cancer much earlier. And as a result of the prostate specific antigen test and the ability to diagnose prostate cancer earlier, guess what happened? The diagnosis of prostate cancer exploded through the roof. And it looked like there was an epidemic of prostate cancer. Well, there really wasn't. It was there all along. It's just now we could diagnose it earlier. So more people got counted as having prostate cancer. That's similar to diagnostic substitution. In this case, it's an increased diagnostic rate because of a more improved tool. Now, the issue about whether or not all those new prostate cancers actually needed to be treated, that's a matter for a different video. But the point is still the same. Another example is when we changed the diagnostic criteria for diabetes 50 years ago. There was patients with diabetes, but the diagnostic criteria were different. And over the more recent decades, the diagnostic criteria were lowered, which means more people get diagnosed with prostate cancer. And the same thing is repeated in so many other areas of medicine. I've included a list below of multiple examples of what look like significant increases in disease that actually turn out to be mostly due to diagnostic substitution or increased diagnostic capabilities and earlier recognition. Another example that I know of is, for example, mitochondrial myopathy. Mitochondrial myopathy is always existed, but it wasn't recognized as a named entity until relatively recently, the last several decades. Well, now there's a marked increase in mitochondrial myopathy. Is this a new disease that came out of nowhere? No, most likely it was there all along. It's just now been recognized because we understand it better, and there's more diagnostic testing and a greater diagnostic criteria, use of diagnostic criteria. So the important thing is that I'm not meaning to diminish the importance of autism. It's there. It's always been there. It's just we're calling it autism now. It's a challenge for patients and families and for providers in our health system, our educational system. And I'm not diminishing the significance of autism. I'm just trying to point out that this thing that they're saying about is this epidemic of autism isn't, it's artifact. It's not really true. It was always there. We just called it something else. As a wise man once told me, Pluto wasn't discovered until 1930. Pluto, the ninth planet, the little tiny one way out there, it wasn't discovered until 1930. But I think it was there all along.